Other countries may see African countries as proxies or even pawns. But we see African nations as partners. The Biden administration believes that the future is being written today in Africa. And we want to move forward together through growing partnerships rooted in mutual cooperation and mutual respect.
Hello everybody, welcome once again to AfriPost. I hope wherever you're watching us from, you're doing great. The question of relationships between Africa and the United States is something that has been really debated for quite some time. You understand that United States has had a kind of a frosty relationship with Africa because most African leaders have seen the kind of relationship that United States imposes on it to be that of authoritarianism, where United States behaves like the big brother and Africa is supposed to really be the small person who is bullied by the strong United States. And this is something that has really led to a shift of the kind of relationship that Africa has with external partners. In recent times, we've seen the rise of relationship between Africa and the East. For example, China. China is really entrenching its existence in Africa. It has really dominated many countries. And I can tell you, in many African countries you go to now, you will find a Chinese project going on. That really shows you the kind of relationship that Africa is having with China has really gone higher. Then look at Russia. Russia is also coming to Africa. It is donating cereals. It is giving Africans fertilizers and every other aspect through which Africa can grow. But then what does US offer? United States comes and it really comes with the dictatorship tendencies. It tells you what to do. It gives you a kind of moral card to play, and it governs the kind of way through which you should relate with yourself and even the external world. In fact, some African leaders said that we cannot go to a war with your enemies just because they are your enemies. We want to create our own friends, and we also want to create our own enemies. And that really gives you the right direction where Africa is headed. Now, 4 months ago, the United States Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin came to Africa, and one thing that really hit me is the kind of speech that he gave. The speech was very well given, and it was really showing you that United States has started realizing that Africa has the ability to make its own choices. And if we are not involved, then as United States, we will remain behind. I want us to watch the speech that Lloyd Austin gave in Angola and then respond to it after the video. Kindly watch.
So we're deepening our cooperation with your government on military modernization and training, maritime security, and medical readiness. And we're committed to working together even more closely on peacekeeping, climate, intelligence, space cooperation, and more. So I'm here in Angola to strengthen that robust and equal partnership. But I'm also here to underscore an important point, and that is that Africa matters. It matters profoundly to the shape of the 21st century world, and it matters for our common prosperity and our shared security. And Africa also matters deeply to the United States and to my boss, President Biden. And I can tell you firsthand that the president believes that Africa's success is crucial to all of our futures. His passion for Africa goes all the way back to his days as a young senator. So when President Biden spoke to African leaders from 49 countries, he said it from the heart. The United States is all in on Africa's future. Now, the president also knows that the continent faces major challenges. Africa is on the front lines of many of the 21st century's most urgent shared threats: pandemics, food insecurity, the climate crisis, terrorism, the plundering of resources, and the return of autocracy. But as I've seen firsthand this week, Some inspiring, very inspiring African leaders and activists and change makers are on those front lines as well. And they're confronting a whole range of big challenges head on. But when you stack together all the energy of this country and this continent, and when you add up everything that I've seen this week, well, I come away from this trip with a whole lot of optimism about Africa's future. As President Biden says, there's a fundamental truth of the 21st century, that our own success is bound up with others succeeding as well. So when we all have a seat at the table, when we work as equals towards shared goals, when we listen and not just lecture, when we invest in our common security, then we have building blocks for a partnership of principle and progress. The United States is deeply committed to making sure that Africa enjoys all of the protections of the international rules and norms that advance security and prosperity. You know, other countries may see African countries as proxies or even pawns, but we see African nations as partners. The Biden administration believes that the future is being written today in Africa, and we want to move forward together through growing partnerships rooted in mutual cooperation and mutual respect. Now, you've heard this administration's commitment to Africa from President Biden, Vice President Harris, Secretary of State Blinken, the First Lady, and many more. But as the Secretary of Defense, I'd like to focus today on how we can build on defense partnerships that advance our shared security and extend our shared values. So I'd like to talk about how the United States military is working with our valued partners in Africa to make the continent and the world more secure, more open, and just. I'll talk frankly about the challenges that we face on security, counterterrorism, and 21st century dangers. And I'll tell you why I'm so optimistic that our shared future is one of peace, prosperity, and above all, freedom. Now, our military cooperation with our African partners today is far stronger than it was just a few years ago. We're working to deepen defense relationships that are rooted in equality and mutual respect. We're joining hands with new partners and building new coalitions to oppose aggression and uphold sovereignty. And we're empowering our partners to pursue locally, nationally, and regionally led solutions to the dangers that they face. These threats include violent extremism, piracy, cyber vulnerabilities, and climate disasters, all too often made worse by weak governance and predatory institutions and persistent poverty. So we're determined to work with our valued African partners to develop the capabilities that they need to keep their people safe. So our outstanding U.S. Africa Command, led by General Michael Langley, provides a range of support to our partners in Africa. And that includes professional military education, capacity building, counterterrorism, logistics, and much, much more. To further grow the capacities of our African partners, President Biden last year established the 21st Century Partnership for African Security. Now, this important initiative supports AFRICOM's work up and down the continent, from building up maritime capabilities and capacities in Djibouti to training alongside Kenyan forces on special operations. Now, many of our partnerships, including with Angola, focus on our expanding cooperation on maritime security. African coastal nations must be able to tackle threats at sea, from trafficking and piracy to illegal and unregulated fishing.
Now, if you listen to what Lloyd Austin is saying, is that Africa is important, and in fact, United States has realized that they cannot compromise the kind of relationship they have with Africa. You know, Africa has all the resources that Western countries would want to have. They have every valuable mineral that anybody would want to have, and therefore Africa is the place to be, especially for those countries that really want to expand their business levels and their existence globally. You understand that even if you look at the population that we have in Africa, it has the highest population of youths globally. And it shows you that if you want cheap and readily available labor, Africa really gives you that. If you want good market for your new products, Africa gives you that. And if you want a place where you can get easy and valuable resources, still Africa is the place. So this is why, regardless of the fact that United States has been having an overbearing kind of relationship with Africa, they have started to really soften their stance, and they have started to look at a way through which Africa can also appreciate its space in community of nations. And one thing that is really evident here is that they appreciate the fact that China is having a larger part of many African countries accepting their deals. And this is kind of keeping United States out of Africa. But it is in the interest of United States that Africa does not work with China. And this is why they have brought Secretary of State Antony Blinken to Africa, has met different heads of states. They have also brought their Vice President Kamala Harris to Africa, who has also met different presidents. So the relationship between Africa and United States is something that is really concerning the government of the day. And it is evident that the government is trying to find every way to ensure that this relationship is salvaged. I don't know what you think about this. Please give me your comment down in the comment section. Like this video and also share. Please, if you're watching us for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And we appreciate every aspect of your support that you continue giving us. Thank you, and may the good Lord bless you. Goodbye.